What's up guys, Maik Wiedenbach here with the rerun from the Q&A. First question was, what about diet breaks? Diet breaks are double-edged sword, but I like them if used properly. So let's say somebody has been dieting for like whatever, 8, 12 weeks and is really like maybe mentally, physically a bit burned out. A diet break is great if we define the diet break. A diet break does not mean clean out Dunkin' Donuts. A diet break means add 50 to maybe 80 grams of carbs a day for 2 weeks, feel a bit full, have a bit more energy, and then go back to diet. So if you can agree on this, it's a great thing. Like I said, every 10 weeks, put 2 weeks of that. But like I said, the increase in calories is like 200 calories a day. By that, the same token, what surplus do I need to build a pound of muscle? That's a good question. Because on average, so like a pound of muscle is about whatever, 600 calories, right? So I eat 600 calories and build a pound of muscle. Because if I cut out 3,500, I lose a pound of fat, right? But it's not the same thing, because losing a pound of fat is rather linear. So you create a deficit, the fat cells empty out, and that's that, right? But building muscle is energy intensive. So things have to happen in the body that cost more energy than the above mentioned 600 calories. So the surplus should be like, depending on the size of the athlete, like 200 to maybe 400 calories a day. Anything over, you're probably not gonna gain muscle, only but a lot of fat. So like I said before, males, at the very best, 2 pounds of muscle a month if unassisted with chemicals. Females about half. Okay, so there's no exact number what kind of calories it will take to build a ounce of muscle, but it's definitely more than what the pound of muscle is actually worth, energetically speaking. Then Mike, what about progressive overload? Yeah, sort of, maybe. So progressive overload is like you got to get stronger to build more muscle or whatever, and that's like okay, but not really. Because first of all, you're not going to get stronger infinitely, right? So what do you do? And then also it leads to micro-cheating, injuries, and it's very stressful. So when I really pursued that, then I was like, oh shit, next week I got to do these numbers, and that's not helpful. Because then you're like, I'm getting the weight up kind of, right? Whereas if you see progressive overload as something has to progress, which is I could do more reps, or I could do maybe another set, or I could execute better, then that will probably do much more for you than just heave-hawing weight, right? What about those skin creams I can buy for the abs? Yeah, you can buy them, sure. So what was abs of steel, whatever. All these creams are basically like a little bit of caffeine that you put here. It's very pricey. And there's a temporary water loss effect, but that's also all there is. So they're not really burning any body fat. Now, if you went to the dark side, aka the bodybuilding world, people use DMSO, which is a byproduct of making paper, which increases permeability of the skin. And then they add illegal fabrics like clenbuterol, T3 or whatever. That works. I've seen it makes like actually holes into the fat so that the dimples and so on and so forth, and then it goes away. But needless to say, there's a high risk and you're breaking the law, so the decision is up to you. What should the rate of my progress be? I don't know. So with everything, the longer you do something, the slower your progress. So the older your training age, like I'm ancient, there's not much happening anymore. If you have started training or you took a break, then the progress is much quicker. However, you should always strive for progress, right? And the easiest way that I can describe it is really win the day. So what I try to do is like I hit my meals and then I try to execute my workout in terms of execution as well as I can, right? And then that's all I can do for that day. That's it, right? There's nothing else I can do. And the next day I try to do it again. And I try to make sure that my form is correct. Maybe I get a little bit more, like whatever range of motion, whatever the case may be, to make it a little bit harder. But I don't stress about what I'm gonna look like at the end of the year. It's just, I'm gonna win that day and see what happens. What's my lateral limit? I don't know. Nobody does. So you have all these, like, when you go on the internet, you measure your wrist and then your maximum bicep can be X and what have you. And that's a good way to drive yourself nuts because, oh, I can only have this big of a bicep. Lord help me. The thing is, you don't know what it looks like, right? So let's say the measurement tells you like, oh, you can have 17-inch biceps. What's the form gonna be like? Are they gonna be lean and so on and so forth, right? But what I do know is that from doing this for a long time, anybody who has been remotely close to the limit is going to look absolutely outstanding. And that's really what people go with, right? So who cares what like the maximum calf you can be or so on? It doesn't matter. Speaking of which, Mike, what are your favorite exercises? Let's start at the bottom. as my staff knows, I love the donkey race. We don't have one, sad. But if there's more space, I will get one, for sure. Exercise the deepest stretch. For hamstrings, I feel like you're somewhat limited to the hamstring curl, right? So I like standing single leg, but anyone will do. Quads, I like step-ups actually, or close stance leg press, sissy squats for the stretch. Glutes, obviously we have this fabulous machine at the gym, the glute bridge, but if you don't have that, honestly, this sounds creaky, but if you have a really, like a cable squat, really wide stance, and you're not going all the way up, that's really good glute activation as well. For abs, well, anything that's weighted, crunched, right, could be like the cable, could be a machine, as long as this comes together. Back, that's kind of my favorite. I have a couple, like, I really like single arm pull-ons, like you cross body, a deep stretch. I also like pullovers to actually get length in the lats. As you know, I like mechanical drop sets in terms of the rows, like, high and then parallel and then underhanded, anything of that sort. Chest, I guess, because I've always been like a poor presser. I really like flies. I feel like most of my rather moderate chest gains have come from chest flies of cables, machines, dumbbells, not so much. But that's just me. Like, some people get great chest workouts out of pressing. It's just not me. Shoulders, that I always had pretty good from swimming. I like leaning cable sides, but I also like the seated Poliquin side raises. I feel they're really good. Rear delt, obviously I do every workout, that's just brushing teeth. Arms, I'm probably the last person to speak because I have terrible arms, but for tries, I like the cable kickback, where you really go behind the body for the full range of motion. That's a nice one. Biceps, I like an incline curl for the stretch, but I also like the Hercules curl, where you come high and bring your arm here. Again, those are just my personal opinions. Anyway, that is the summary of today's questions. I will post that in a private YouTube link. And as always, feel into comments, send in more questions. Happy to answer. Maik out.